The last noo-noo. Marlon sat on the floor watching TV. Marlon's granny sat in the armchair watching Marlon. "He's getting too old for that dummy," she said sternly to Marlon's mum. "It's a noo-noo," said Marlon. "He calls it a noo-noo," explained Marlon's mum. "Well, whatever he calls it," said Marlon's granny, "he looks silly with that great thing stuck in his mouth all the time." "He doesn't have it all the time," soothed Marlon's mum. "Only at night or if he's a bit tired. He's a bit tired now, aren't you, pet?" Said Marlon. "His teeth will start sticking out," warned Marlon's granny. "Monsters' teeth stick out anyway," observed Marlon. "Don't answer back," said Marlon's granny. "You should just throw them all away," she continued. "At this rate he'll be starting school with the dummy. At this rate he'll be starting work with the dummy. You'll just have to be firm with him." "Well," said Marlon's mum, "I am thinking about it. We'll start next week, won't we, Marlon? Now you're a big boy, we'll just get rid of all those silly noo-noos, won't we?" "No," said Marlon. "You see," said Marlon's granny, "one word from you and he does as he likes." There was no doubt about it. Marlon was a hopeless case. Marlon's mum decided to take drastic action. She gathered up every single noo-noo she could find and dumped them all in the dustbin 5 minutes before the rubbish truck arrived. But Marlon had made plans just in case the worst should happen. He had secret noo-noo supplies all over the house. There was a yellow one down the side of the armchair, a blue one at the back of the bread bin, various different types in his toy ambulance, and his favourite pink one was lurking in the toe of his Wellington boot. His mother and granny were astonished. They could not think where he kept finding them. "You'll be teased when you go out to play," warned his granny. "A great big monster like you with a baby's dummy." Marlon knew about this already. The other monsters had been teasing him for ages, but he loved his noo-noo so much that he didn't care. The other monsters often lay in wait and jumped out on Marlon as he passed by with his noo-noo twirling. "Who's a big baby then?" jeered Basher. "Does the little baby need his dummy then?" sneered Alligatina. "Who's his mummy's little darling?" cooed Boomps-a-Daisy. Marlon always ignored their taunts. "You're just jealous," he replied. "You all wish you'd got one too." Gradually, the secret supply of noo-noos dwindled. Marlon's mum refused to buy any more and they all began to be lost or thrown away by Marlon's mum. Finally, there was only one left, the pink one. Marlon kept it with him all the time, either in his mouth or under his pillow or in the toe of his Wellington boot, where no one thought to look. To his delight, Marlon found one extra noo-noo that his mum had missed. It was a blue one which had fallen down the side of his bed and been covered up by a sock. He knew his best pink noo-noo wouldn't last forever, so he crept out and planted the blue one in the garden. All the other monsters decided to gang up on Marlon. They collected lots of different bits of junk and fixed them all together until they had made just what they wanted. It was a noo-noo snatcher. Then they waited behind a bush until Marlon came past with his pink noo-noo twirling. "Here he comes," said Alligatina. "Grab it," yelled Boomps-a-Daisy. "Now," said Basher. With one quick hooking movement, they caught the ring of the noo-noo with the noo-noo snatcher and pulled. But Marlon clenched his teeth and held on. Monsters have the most powerful jaws in the world. Once they have decided to hang on, that's it. Marlon hung on, the monsters hung on to the noo-noo snatcher, and there they stayed, both sides pulling with all their monster might. And there they would still be if Marlon had not decided just at that very moment that perhaps he was too old to have a noo-noo anymore. So he let go. and all the other monsters went whizzing off down the road, across the park, and into the pond with a mighty splash. Marlon went home. "I've given up my noo-noo," he said. "I sort of threw it into the pond." "Good gracious me!" exclaimed Marlon's mum, sitting down suddenly and with the shock. "I told you," said Marlon's granny. "You just have to be firm." "Actually," said Marlon, "I've planted one, so I'll have a noo-noo tree just in case I change my mind." "That's nice, dear," said Marlon's mum. "Nonsense," said Marlon's granny. "Dummies don't grow on trees. A noo-noo tree? How ridiculous!"